Hello, this is Mary Collar-Ditta, and sorry for my amateur recordings, but I'm thinking it's not really about the recording itself, but about God's Word and my reflection upon God's Word. And thinking about God's Word and what my focus has been is on how to know God's will through reading His Word. And I'm using my memory verses, which are kind of random. So today, my verse is from 1 Corinthians 9:19 through 23. For though I am free from all men, I have made myself a slave to all, that I might win the more. And to the Jews I became as a Jew, that I might win Jews. And to those under the law, as under the law, though not being myself under the law, that I might win those who are under the law. To those who are without law, as without law, though not being myself without the law of God, but under the law of Christ, that I might win those who are without law. To the weak I became weak, that I might win the weak. I have become all things to all men, that I may by all means win some. And I do all things for the sake of the gospel, that I may become a fellow partaker of it. So this is written by Paul to the believers in Corinth. And he says his purpose, which is to win by all means people to the Lord through the gospel. It says, by all means save some. So his purpose is to present the gospel to all types of people. He says, I've become everything. I've become all things to all men. Now, he felt, Paul did, that this was God's will for him. He was to preach to the Jew and to the Gentile, to those under the law, which is the law of Moses, and to those not under the law. And that could have been even Jews who did not follow the law, or Gentiles. And then he says to the weak. So he says, this is God's will for me. Now, is that God's will for you? Well, we could say it can be God's will to become all things to all men. And so we have to think about, well, then what does it mean to become all things to all men? So when he says to the Jew, I became a Jew, well, he was a Jew. So that doesn't make sense. How can he become a Jew if he's already a Jew? And then he says to those under the law, as under the law, though I'm not under the law. Well, he used to be under the law before he knew Jesus as the Messiah. And then he says, well, to those not under law, I'm not under, he will be not under the law, but he's really under the law of God through Christ. So this tells us that Christ has a higher law than the law of Moses, than the law of the Torah. So what he's saying is that I'm not better than anybody, and I need to understand where each person is coming from and meet them where they're at. I want to be a slave to them. I want to put them as my master. That's what he says in the beginning. Though I am free from all men, I have made myself a slave to all. So to become a slave, one does what the master wants. He doesn't say I became a slave to Christ. He became a slave to all men and women, to all people. Meaning that he is here to serve them, to know who they are, to hear them, and to reach them through the gospel, that some of them might believe and be saved. Oh, I could see that being God's will for us, because Jesus even said, he who would be the greatest among you must be the servant. And he who would be chief should be the minister. So, in that sense, this is God's will for us, to put others before ourselves. But not just to really know them, where they're at. So we can share this with Paul in understanding God's will for us. I hope you meditate upon this and think about this today with everyone that you come across, for everyone whose path you cross. How can I know them as they are, to share Christ with them, and to show Christ's love for them as their slave and not as their master? Think about that. If you like, please subscribe. Thanks.